Hey, Randy.
Hey, Jerry.
And Candy. And Derek.
Hi.
Yep.
And good old Jeff.
Well, let's get rolling. So this is the Village Board of Oregon and the joint meeting with the Library Board for Monday, June 7th, 2021. Candy, may we have roll call?
Yes, you may. All right. Beshin,
Here.
Bilo. Okay. Balik,
Oleg is here.
Glish,
Yes, I'm here.
Peterson,
Yes, here.
and Wunsch.
Yep, I'm here.
All right. Jenny, do you want to do a call to order and a roll?
Yep. I would like to call the library board meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Beshin,
Yep, here.
Bergstrom,
Here.
Goplin. Here. Nelson,
Here.
Santuli Shuda. She's not here. Okay. Severson
Here.
and Stata.
Here.
All right. All right, we'll go down to number 5. It's open session, business, discussion, and or possible action. And 5A is updates on the zoning text amendment for minimum parking standards in agreement with the school district for Netherwood Knoll Elementary parking lot. So I don't know, is Elise or Martin? I don't know who wants to start out with this.
Martin, do you want me to take the text amendment? You can take the school district bit.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay, so we had a planning commission meeting last Thursday, June 3rd, and had a discussion about possible zoning text amendment for minimum parking requirements, not just for library use, but other use categories that we have within the village that are a little outdated at this point. So offices, say family housing, things like that. So we got general direction from the Planning Commission to proceed with a zoning text amendment to update our parking requirements and our zoning code to more closely align with more modern or up-to-date zoning codes that exist and have been recently adopted in similar sized communities in Wisconsin. So I'm going to be working on sort of a draft zoning text amendment to present to the Planning Commission at the June 30th meeting, which will actually be a joint meeting with the village board. So I'll have to chat with Martin about what we want to put that on the agenda, if that's something we want to discuss when both boards are together or not. But we'll sort of try to get their general feedback and support. There's a couple categories that we might not want to go exactly with what we were comparing against Fort Atkinson. So we may not want to go exactly with what they proposed. It may be something slightly different. So we'll have that discussion on June 30th. And then assuming everyone's on board with those changes, we will proceed with a public hearing notice for that ordinance and have that hopefully on the August 5th Planning Commission meeting and then the subsequent village board meeting.
Okay, so let me ask Elise and Martin, are you looking for anything on the zoning text amendment from either board tonight? Or
I don't think so. I think at our last board meeting, you all gave support for proceeding with the text amendment. So I just hadn't had a chance to really do that side-by-side analysis with the Planning Commission until last week. So I think unless Martin sees any need to, I think we'll just proceed with kind of drafting up those changes and then
right, and we'll see it again.
Yep,
Yeah.
you'll see at the
Okay.
end of.
Okay. All right, Martin, do you want to talk about the?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit, and Elise and maybe Matt Dregney can chime in too, because there was a meeting last week that I wasn't able to make. But we started looking through what it would take to draft the agreement between the village and school district for shared parking in Netherwood Knoll. And it's a little more complicated than we anticipated. So we're doing a little bit of work on it. And I don't know, Elise or Matt, is there anything from the meeting last week that came out of that we're moving on for this agreement?
Well, this is Matt. We're not actually working on the agreement yet. I think what we decided at the staff level is that before we need to understand how many parking stalls we need, if any, at that offsite location as kind of a first step in the process. And then, so the zoning text amendment is relevant to that. The other thing that we concluded is that the zoning ordinance will require us to require the public works director to make certain determinations that require some homework by both probably the library director and the public works director to determine things like peak hour parking needs at both locations and some other determinations that have to be made. So there's some work to do before we really move forward with an agreement. And actually at this point, I don't even know for certain that we will need an agreement. So I think that is yet to be determined.
So should we open Martin and Elise? I mean, let's see if there are any comments or any questions from either board for anybody. Can we do that?
Yeah, Randy, this is Mike.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Matt, when you say we may not need it, what are you basing that on? The site clearly won't hold even if we amend it to exactly what Fort Atkinson wanted. The site clearly won't hold 98 spots if we, amend it to the Fort Atkinson code.
Well, so as I understand it, there are other alternatives that can be used to satisfy, at least from a zoning standpoint, the bare minimum requirements, such as walkability and on-street parking issues that can be explored. These are some things we haven't dug into yet, but so based on the meeting we had last week, as I understood it at least, and Elise can weigh in if she had a different perspective, but we do not today know how many stalls in that school parking lot would be necessary to meet what we expect the new zoning requirements to be, if any. Now, that's not to say, I think the discussion was, well, even if we reach the conclusion that it's not technically necessary to have an agreement to meet the bare minimum zoning standards, it may still be desirable to have an agreement to make that parking available for library patrons. But then we would be pursuing the agreement, not because it's absolutely critical from a legal standpoint to meet the zoning, but because it's a helpful thing to have just as a practical matter. And so that's at least my recollection of where we landed during our staff meeting on that. At least, am I missing anything significant from your perspective?
Yeah, I think just that depending on if it would be required to meet that minimum parking requirement, or would just be a sort of nice to have the format of that agreement, whether it's a lease or an easement or more of a less formal MOU, that would be determined at that time. The other thing we discussed last week is that, when the conceptual plans for the library were put together, there wasn't, of course, a whole lot of time and energy spent towards parking lot layout and circulation and design. And we made the comment that, depending on how parking would actually be laid out, if there was a potential for, a one-way traffic through the parking lot, or even looking at angled parking rather than 90-degree parking, there's the potential to actually fit probably more parking spaces on the site than we've seen in any of the site plans that have really been put forward. And again, that's just a result of not releasing the architect to really invest a lot of time and thought into that parking lot layout. So Mike Slavny was part of our caller, our planning consultant that's been with the village for quite a long time, and he feels that with some adjustments to the actual angles and drive aisles within the parking lot, in addition to, you know, hopefully this zoning text amendment we're able to get adopted, and potential flexibilities for the walkability, proximity to downtown, some on-site, you know, off-street parking, that we might be able to get there on the site that we have. And then again, the elementary school parking lot might just be kind of the cherry on top or gravy on top. That might not be necessarily required to meet.
Yeah,
that
Elise, thank
total
you.
number.
Yeah, Elise, thank you for the additional details because I'd forgotten about the parking reconfiguration. So in terms of to-do lists coming out of that meeting, Jennifer should weigh in here too. But so one was, I think the library board is going to have to talk about whether they need to really engage with their architect on, or someone else on the parking lot design, and really put the pencil to paper on the potential rethinking of exactly how that parking lot is laid out and how many stalls that would lead to. So that had to be done. We also need to know what the outcome of the zoning change is. And then frankly, on some of these other factors, like walkability and on-street parking, we didn't really get into the details of those last week. So I'm not exactly sure how those are ultimately going to factor into the analysis. But again, once we get through those different elements of analysis, we'll know whether we need more, whether we critically need an agreement with the school district from a legal standpoint, or whether, as Elise said, it's just nice extra parking that isn't necessary, but is nice to have. Jennifer, did you have anything on that? Because you were a big part of that discussion.
Just want to mention the school district. We've gotten, you know, we've had contact with them that have indicated they're happy to work together and help where they can. But we haven't had a conversation that really has dove into exactly what their needs are or what our needs would be. So I just want to let you know that they've been supportive, and Leslie, you can add to that if you want to, but we really haven't started that conversation with them in any level of detail beyond their willingness to help where they can.
Okay.
Randy?
Yeah. Mike.
I see this, the MOU is beneficial to both the school district and the library lot, having lived in this neighborhood for 15 years. Before the driveways into the church lot, the old church lot deteriorated, that was parked up pretty regularly for after school programs, parent-teacher conferences and things like that. I see the potential for an MOU regardless of parking on site as benefiting both institutions.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mike. Anybody else from the village board or the library board have questions or comments?
This is Coral. Can I ask potentially a foolish question? I'm wondering how that MOU would also impact whatever traffic studies I know we've done, and you'll have to forgive me, my brain does not keep all of them like up to date, but I know that also would be a part of the consideration of that particular MOU. Am I correct in remembering that?
So the MOU, Coral, that you're talking about is specifically would be for shared parking and the ability to potentially use the school lot for some library parking and potentially vice versa. The traffic studies we've done in the past have evaluated the safest location for pedestrian crossings on Main Street. So that piece shouldn't affect any parking agreement, although we would want to make sure that the crosswalk location would support that if that were to happen. Jeff could add, but we've kind of determined that there's going to be a crosswalk that would have the actual signal to cause traffic to stop rather than just the blinking lights. So that piece has been determined to try to make that crossing safe. But obviously if we had an agreement, there would be more traffic crossing that street, which is very busy, to use the library. So we would want to make sure that those things were looked at very carefully again. But the work has been done on those, and having an agreement with the school for parking would not negate any of that work so far.
Thanks, that clarifies it nicely for me.
Okay, anybody else? Elise, I do have a question, just so I can just reiterate. So you'll be working on some language amendments to the parking. That'll go to Plan Commission, as you mentioned. Then that will come to us for final determination. What about how will the agreement with the school district, does that go to the Plan Commission too, or does it go to Jeff, or does it come to the village board? Do we know how that will work? Or maybe Matt can answer. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I mean,
Anybody?
that's a good question. I haven't decided for certain whether that agreement would be approved at the village level, at least by the village board or the library board. I'm not certain. It'll be one, the other, or both.
Because I was wondering, Matt, if we needed the spots to sort of get to the number that we're looking at, and that sort of ties into the Plan Commission, do they also have to approve that piece or not?
No.
Yet to be determined, I guess.
Yeah, and actually, so yes, yet to be determined, but I can tell you that the parties who are involved in approving the agreement are the Public Works Director, the village administrator, and then the agreement itself. Again, I'm not, we'll have to determine. My guess is, my best judgment today is it would be an agreement between the library board and the school board.
Okay.
But the Public Works Director and the village administrator would both have to sign off on certain aspects of the agreement.
Okay, all right, good.
Again, if those numbers were required to meet the parking minimums, I would imagine whether or not the planning commission actually, I don't think they would be involved in the agreement, but we would let them know that this agreement is sort of lined up. And,
yes.
this is the number of spots that would be met in that parking,
Okay.
as a FYI at least.
Okay.
And I would
All right, so-
anticipate that the school board would probably need to go through that same level of approval. So there's lots of parties that would be involved.
All right, so any other questions or comments? It looks like things are moving along at a good pace, and so we'll have some updates in the next few weeks, which is good. Anybody else, before we leave this item, anybody else have any questions or comments that you'd like to ask or say? Or all right, I'm not hearing anything. All right, thank you. So we'll move on. Our next is we're going to go into closed session, and I'll take Candy, I'll take the village board first, a motion in a second to go into closed session, and we'll do a voice vote for that. So can I get a motion to go into closed session from the village board, please?
Peterson will make that motion.
All right, Amanda, thank you. Second?
Second, Beshon.
All right, Carmen, thank you. All right. All in favor, say aye. Oh, wait.
Aye.
Wait, I gotta do a voice vote.
Oh, roll call.
Yeah, let's do the voice vote. I almost thought I had that tonight, but let's do the voice vote, Candy.
Philo,
Yes.
Glish,
Yes.
Wunsch,
Yes.
Beshon,
Yes.
Follig,
Yes.
and Peterson.
Yes.
All right, good. All right, Jenny, you want to take it?
Yep, I need a motion to go into closed session for the library board, please.
I'll make that motion. This is Goblin.
Is there a second?
Second by Stata.
Candy, can you do a roll call?
All right. Stata,
Yes.
Beshon,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Goplin,
Yes.
and Nelson.
Yes.
All right, so Elise, you'll get the appropriate people in the closed session.
Great. So just a reminder, if you are not a member of village staff pertaining to this item, or library board or village board, if you could remove yourself from the meeting, and then you can request to come right back into the waiting room. And once we are done with closed session, I will let you back in. That would be great. So I'll give a couple moments for people to remove themselves, and then Jennifer or Jenny, just let me know. I don't know all of your library board numbers. I just want to make sure we've got all the right people in the room. Lisa, you can stay.
Oh, you should speak up a little bit.
That's always hard for me to understand.
Carlene, are you still in Denver? Oh, no, you're not.
Oh,
Just kidding.
I am moving to a chair though. I'm tired of standing.
Elise, let me know when you're ready.
Okay, just muted our person that sounded like they were in a swimming
All
pool.
right.
So I'm ready to go.
We're back. Okay, so we're on to number 7 and open session business discussion possible action. 7A, Martin, I don't know, we don't need any other necessary discussion or action related to the closed session item?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, all right. Then 8, the library board may adjourn if they wish.
So
I have a
moved.
motion. Is there a second?
By Stata.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Great. Thank you
All
guys so
right,
much
thanks,
for meeting
guys.
with us.
Thank you. Okay, we are on to number 9, which is public appearances. And so I just want to just say a couple of things. Marvin and I have been talking about this community input. There's been different people have different ideas about what the community input is. I've been in other committees where it's only input on things that are not on the agenda. And I think Martin and we believe that is not the case. It can be for something that is on the agenda, correct, Martin, right?
Yeah, and in our case, it looks like we've always had the note that says that it can or cannot be on the agenda. So
Yeah,
basically,
I think a lot of us have it's always been said, items not on the agenda, and that really is not the case. So the community input is for anything that is on the agenda or isn't on the agenda. So I think we should ask if there's any, Elise, do you see, is there anybody from the community that would like to speak? We have about 3 minutes for each speaker. We have a 15-minute time limit. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on something?
I don't see anybody raising their hand. But
Randy, can I speak for just a second? I just wanted to clarify that at the beginning when people speak during the public input part, according to what it says there, it's one-way information. So if somebody came to the meeting and they had to leave early, for example, before we got to the agenda item, they can speak to us and we can ask clarifying questions, but we can't have like a back and forth discussion.
Right.
That's why I think that's why we generally do the non-agenda items at the beginning, because if they want to speak to something on the agenda and we wait until we talk about it on the agenda, then we can have a two-way conversation about that agenda item.
Yeah.
That's the main difference.
And I know there's been confusion because I've been in other ones where they said you cannot talk unless it's not on the agenda.
Randy?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I may, what I would like to suggest is that we perhaps put an agenda item on our next meeting and announce it, that we're going to discuss public appearances and what they consist of, because the flip side of that is if you're at home with little kids and you've got to sit in a meeting for a couple of hours and get dinner on the table and everything else, it's really a discouragement. We should really allow people to, if we're going to go that route, to speak in either place, whichever is convenient to them.
Okay, all right.
But maybe we need to, notice that if we're going to go into a discussion of it.
Okay, all right. So is there anybody on, didn't hear anybody, or at least do you see anybody from the public that wants to do some community input tonight?
I don't at this time, Randy.
Okay, all right, well, we'll get this clarified. This is a good discussion to get this clarified and get this corrected, so that's good. All right, well, let's go to 10 then, and approval of village board meeting minutes, and I did see that it just myself, Amanda, and Jerry were at the January 18th, February 17th, and March 1st. So maybe we can take those three as a group for the three of us, I guess, because we were the only ones there.
I'll move
So
approval.
All right, Jerry, Amanda.
I'll second.
Okay, yeah, any other discussion or any corrections or anything that you guys saw? All right, see none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, and then 10D is the May 17th, 2021. We were all there. I think that's here tonight. So I would take a motion to accept the May 17th village board minutes.
Almost.
All right, Mike,
Mike,
second.
Carleen, Beshon.
Carleen, all right, thanks, Carleen. All right, any other discussion or corrections on those? Otherwise, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Very good. All right. And we're on to 11, approval of vouchers. And let me just look at my notes here. Our vouchers are in the amount of $778,657.32.
I'll move
And,
those for discussion.
all right, Jerry, very good. Second.
Derek will second.
All right, Derek, second. All right, let's discuss. You've got questions. Jerry, you want to go?
I'll go. First is, actually I have a question on number 1418. CGC, this is probably for Jeff, for DC Park Geotech.
Yes. Yeah, that's for JC Park geotechnical study and evaluation.
Oh, okay, so that's not like it's material or anything like that.
No,
Okay,
that was something we had them do last year, and that went through the board and everything.
okay. All right. Okay, and this is probably for Chief Baginkoff, Middleton Motors, 2 Ford Interceptors. I assume those were in the budget.
Yes, sir.
And did we trade in vehicles, or do we have 2 more vehicles, or is the fleet the same, I guess, is the question?
Sure, good question. So we auctioned off one and we kept the other.
Okay,
Just kept it in a rotation.
thank you. And then there were some credit card charges for garage door opener. Is that at the public safety building or the public works building?
Good question.
$1,250. Looks like it was done in April 12th.
I know we did replace one around that time, so I'm assuming that would be ours.
Okay.
It's just wear and tear. It was outdated, ready to be replaced.
Okay, just wore out. And then there's also a $999 grill.
Oh, I think that's senior center.
Oh, okay.
That'd
be an inside grill.
No, that's an outside grill. I think, Rachel, are you on here somewhere? I believe that was a donated item, and
Right.
And there was money donated for it, and it was about $1,000.
That was what, Jeff?
About $1,000.
Okay,
It was donated.
right. And there was a charge in the April credit card charges for storm sewer clean ditch. There's no corresponding number here, just done on April 12th. And it was for Mant Sandfill, $800.
Yeah,
And
that's all the stuff. So the concrete ditch that is between, it goes through JC Park, had not been cleaned in a couple of years.
okay,
And that's full of a ton of muck.
okay,
Real soupy
All right.
muck. So Kevin used our vac truck to be able to do that. I'm sure those were he had to go up there with many loads, and that was cost for those.
Yeah, that just brought my attention to it. No, I was just gonna compliment you and your staff on what a great job they did with that.
Yeah, it looks great. Kevin did a
Yeah.
fantastic job with it.
They took a lot of material out of there.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay, Jerry, thanks. Anybody else?
Yeah, Randy, I just have one. I'm sure it's for Jeff. $2,108 for meter gaskets.
What's the number on it, Derek?
10919 to Midwest Meter.
Oh, okay. So those are meter gaskets. What was it again? What number?
10919.
109. Oh, I don't have that on mine. What page are you up on top? Page 4?
Page 5. It was on April 12th. U.S. Bank credit card.
Oh, okay.
Paid on the 16th, it looks like.
Lisa, do you have any help on that?
Or, I'm sorry, it's not page 5, it's page 8. I'm sorry.
Page 8. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
What was the dollar amount on that, Derek?
2,000.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Good Lord. Page 6 and 2,108. I'm jumping around here. I'm sorry, folks.
Page 6. Meter gaskets.
It's just a couple below the trash and recycling.
I see it there. Meter covered under warranty, meter gaskets. Oh, I can dig into that, Derek, and find out what that is. It seems like a lot for gaskets, but it might be for a whole bunch of meters we bought.
All right, Derek, any others?
No, that was it. Thanks.
Okay.
I'll
Who
shoot
else?
you an email, Derek, on that.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Anybody else? I have one. Lisa, this might be for you. I think I kind of know what it is. It's 6,400. It's the Oregon School District. It's recreation summer program. I'm guessing, Lisa, this is something that we probably do every year. We make a donation to the program.
Randy, I do believe that's correct, but she's up looking for that previous invoice. So she's getting
Okay.
back to her desk right now.
Okay, because I think I've seen this before
Yeah.
previously, other years. Okay.
And
Yes,
then
we've
while-
done, it is an annual expense. that we
Yeah,
have.
that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah, okay.
then-
Anybody else?
Randy, just while we have a second here, I don't
Yeah.
know, I'm getting a lot of feedback. I don't know if everybody else is.
I
So
heard
if,
some.
yeah,
Mhm.
if we can just make sure we're muted, if we're not talking, and then if we have anything in the background, just turn it down.
Okay.
Because I'm getting like it sounds like a fountain or a waterfall. So,
Okay,
okay.
all right. All right, so no other, I think we're gonna do a voice vote on this one, Candy, right? Yep.
That's
You
correct.
want- We have a motion in a second. Do you want to go ahead?
Balig,
Yes.
Bilo,
Yes.
Wunsch,
Yes.
Glish,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
and Beshen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Terrific. Okay, we are on, let's see, we're on 12 proclamations and announcements. We do have a vacancy, and we'll do an open application process for police commission member. We had a resignation of the commission president. The deadline for interested parties to submit letters of interest to the village clerk's office is 3 weeks, June 28th. So June 28th is when the application is due, and then we'll take a look at them. Amanda, you look like you had a question.
Yeah, I do. I was curious, since he's the president of the commission, would this be an application for commission president or just to be on the commission and then they pick a president?
That's a good question. Chief?
Yes, for now, the vice president will step up in his role. And once this next person is appointed, then they'll go back through and decide who will be president, vice president.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on that? All right, hopefully we'll get a bunch of applications. 12B is upcoming meetings and events, and looks like Martin put a nice schedule for us together in our packet, so we can just add them to our calendar. So thank you for that. 13 is report of village officers. And Martin, this is something kind of new for us. I think you did it last time. Do you want each department head to highlight things, or what would you like?
No, not necessarily. I have a written report in the packet. And if I have something to highlight, I can certainly highlight it. I don't necessarily have anything to highlight tonight.
Okay, I mean, we can ask your other department heads if anybody wants to highlight something that they listed.
Yeah, and under 13, was it E? We have the village department head staff and consultant comments, so that would be a perfect time for that to happen too.
Okay. All right, anybody want to come forward, speak? All right, we also have village board comments too. We can go to F. Any comments from the village board?
Oh, can I just say, Randy, you did a great job Saturday.
Yeah, that was a great event. Thank you, Amanda.
That was nice.
All right. Anything?
Randy?
Who's speaking?
Sorry.
All right, Derek. Yeah.
So just kind of going back with the village department head and staff with the police department and the speeding concerns on Market Street.
Yeah.
I was just had a quick question for the chief. If there's been any complaints about the corner of Market and Netherwood, because that seems to be a bit of an issue from what I've heard. Just wondering if you've heard anything about that, or what I'm hearing.
Well, I haven't heard as much about that intersection, but I know, I can't speak for Jeff, but I think he's heard the same complaints about Market at Grove, and just the congestion there. We're doing our best to do extra enforcement out there, keep people at a slow speed. We get that there's just more traffic too, trying to get that through smoothly.
Just out of curiosity, would it be possible to put up like a temporary four-way stop at the corner of Netherwood and Market, or is that not something that's really feasible? Is that, and I've seen it myself. And I saw one police officer sitting down there one morning when I was driving to work. He was sitting down there. I'm not sure if there was an accident or what, but there seemed to be some issues there at that time as well. I don't know. Like I said, it's just a thought, but.
I'll turn it over to Jeff after. The one comment I would have is, I think it's a unique intersection as it is because you have the railroad tracks right there. So putting a four-way stop, even temporarily, might complicate things. But Jeff, if you want to chime in.
Yeah, so I've been going through that site every day, usually after lunch, and just go through to kind of look at things, how things are working. Derek, I've thought the same thing, there, because that's a weird. You got the road closed signs and everything, which make people think it's almost like a three-way kind of intersection. Well, it's still a four-way intersection, and we don't have a lot of vehicles coming from the Walgreens side. It might work. I don't think we've had any accidents out there per se, other than definitely it's a whole new kind of situation. Typically in these situations, there's just a learning curve as people get used to it. And then, now with Dane County in there, there's gonna be a lot more people wanting to, or trying to use North Main Street. So we'll have to kind of see how it goes. I'm a little apprehensive about doing four-way stops there, just because that might cause more confusion. It's not a bad idea though. The Grove and Market corner is tight. Chief, I know I sent an email back about issuing no parking on both sides of Grove. but I haven't seen a sign there. Do you know, did you get that?
I did. We wanted to first talk with the people that live there to really understand how this is going to impact them, because we've taken away a lot of parking already because of the
Right.
construction. So
Right.
we're working on that instead
Okay.
of just quickly throwing it up.
Okay, all right. So I think that'll help somewhat, but yeah, there seems to be, in fact, I think some people have even made some signs, some homemade signs there on the corner and everything like that. I drive through there quite a bit. I just slow way down and haven't had too many problems. It's just, I think Chief would agree with this. It's, you know, mostly problems we deal with are just impatient drivers.
Okay. So I'm gonna, Rachel, I noticed yours, and actually, Martin, I like how you put this stuff in there so that we sort of really get up to speed on what's happening in all the departments. But I wanna point out, Rachel, I'm just, you know, I was pleased to see the Medicaid compliance, and I don't know if you want to say anything about that, but that's kind of a big deal, I think.
Yeah, that was quite a project. We've had a state licensed adult day program here at the senior center for a very long time. But last year, the federal government decided that everybody who gets Medicaid funding to attend a program like that, the programs would all have to meet a whole bunch of new standards that we had never seen before. And so we had to come up with the proof of 48 new standards that included 82 benchmarks among their 48 standards, and prove to reviewers that we were meeting all of those. And it also involved an on-site inspection, which couldn't be done during COVID, and we had to do it by video. And it was a large group project here at the center. There were a lot of staff members involved in different pieces of it, and we were really pleased to complete that and get the notification from the State Department of Human Services that we had successfully achieved that. And now we have to just continue to live up to those standards and benchmarks.
Yeah, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Sounds like quite a feat to pull off, and you guys did it. So
thank you.
Great. Okay.
Randy?
Yes.
I just wanted to hop in real quick. Chief, thanks for the traffic study on Market Street. I've heard from a couple people that live along Market that they've noticed the police out there, and it's appreciated. I've heard from several people on Grove Street. One is the corner of Grove and Market that Jeff alluded to. People saying that they're having difficulties even backing out of their driveway because people whip around there. And the other was a concern by one of the other residents there that the intersection between Grove and Main Street is now being treated as a rolling stop by a lot of drivers, that they're not coming to full stops at the crosswalks. So, but thank you for what you've done.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that. We'll add that to the list to keep an eye on. As far as the no parking on both sides, I'm a little leery on that because the residents that live right in that vicinity have very limited parking. So I just don't want, you know, us to fix one problem and cause another. So we're just trying to work with that area. It's terrible when you're living on that route that now is the detour, and we got to kind of fight through this a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, let's go to 14, communication miscellaneous business. 14A is information on American Rescue Plan funds. Informational only, no action. Martin put a nice memorandum together. Martin, I'd just say it looks like we're going to get hopefully a little bit more than we maybe anticipated. I don't know if you want to say anything else to that.
Yeah, so just a little bit more info's come out since the last meeting. It looks like we might get a little bit more, a little over 60,000 more than we initially thought, but that's still to be determined. So I guess right now with these funds, they're being provided to the state, and the state is asking for some information from us at this point. And it sounds like pretty soon they'll actually issue the first tranche of money to us. So we'll get that in, and I think it would be a good idea probably sometime later this summer, and maybe it would probably be even a better idea to do this in conjunction with the budget process, but we can talk about how we want to use those funds.
Yeah. So Martin, you're not anticipating any problem from the state in terms of somebody's going to hold some back or anything like that, are you? No.
No, I don't think so. I think they have some mandated deadlines to meet to get these funds out.
Okay.
So they're really right now, they're just looking for mostly administrative information from us to be able to disperse those funds.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Okay. All right. 14B is a request from the Oregon Area Chamber of Commerce to waive the $25 fireworks permit application fee for fireworks on July 10th event at JC Park. Staff recommends the motion is to approve. I mean, I do know that these are being paid for. My understanding is the chamber is the one paying for the fireworks. And I know that we've seen requests from them before to waive the fee. And so, I mean, my personal is they do a lot of good things for the village. So for me, I'm fine with waiving the $25 fee. And if you all feel the same, we can take a motion in a second and approve this.
I think you
Can
just
I
made
ask-
a motion.
I'll make the motion. Amanda, you want a second?
Sure, but I have a question before we vote.
Okay.
I'm just curious, does any other group ever apply for a fireworks fee? Isn't it always the chamber?
It probably is.
I'm
yeah.
just curious why we have a fee if they're the only ones who use it
Yeah.
and we waive it all the time, but
No, there's private entities every once in a while that apply for fireworks permit.
okay, thank you. I was just curious.
That's right, isn't that Candy? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the fire department actually does an inspection, don't they, Jeff?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
that
So
fee
this,
is to cover the fire department costs.
yeah. All right. So there's a motion first from me, second from Amanda to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, perfect. We're on 14C, Oregon Area Senior Center Policy, 1.016 response actions related to COVID-19. I don't know, Rachel, do you just want to say a quick thing and before we take a motion to approve that? Do you want to say a few things?
Sure. I'll just say that we had a very specific policy in place before this one, 3 pages worth of information on sanitizing and all kinds of stuff. Now it's time to step back from that a little bit, we think, and continue to follow the science as we have been throughout this pandemic. We'd like to ask the board to adopt a policy that gives us a little more flexibility to continue to follow the public health guidelines and the CDC guidelines as they continue to change, but also to allow us to move towards a more pre-pandemic model of how people are using the senior center. We would be reducing our hours to the public slightly in person each day, simply to allow for more cleaning and sanitizing of the building. But we'd still be available from 8 to 4 by phone and for appointments.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. All right, let's have a motion in a second. Let's get this thing approved.
I can make a motion.
All right, Carlene, thank you. Second,
I'll second.
okay,
Amanda.
Amanda. Any other discussion on this item? I'm hearing now, is everybody else hearing? I'm hearing some feedback. Anyway, all right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we're good.
Thank you.
All right, 14D, 2021 to 2022 annual alcohol beverage license renewal applications. The recommendation is to, the motion is to approve the license renewal applications as presented. I'll take a motion in a second to do that.
So moved.
Randy, this is Amanda. I'll make that motion.
Okay, and then I heard Mike, I heard you, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and they were all listed in our packet as well. Okay, any other discussion on that one? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect. All right, moving along, 14E, change of agent for Quick Trip on 1916 Janesville Street. Staff recommendation is to approve change of agent to Heather Williams at Quick Trip number 372. I'll take a motion in a second to approve that.
Don't move.
I heard Mike and then who else?
Derek will second.
Derek, perfect. Any other discussion on that? Pretty straightforward. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right,
Randy, this is Candy.
yes, Candy.
Do you mind if I say something here for just a second?
No, go ahead.
I just want to thank Joy Hansen for doing her detailed review of the alcohol beverage licenses. She did a very thorough job reviewing all the applications, making sure there was no outstanding debt to any of the establishments, and getting all of the inspection reports and stuff in order. So she did a great job.
And there were several of them too to do, so yeah, thank you very much. Okay, we're on to 14F, promote Nick, is it, Jeff, is it Hawk?
No, Hack.
All right, to street superintendent, exempt position retroactive to June 1st, 2021, at a salary of $70,720 annual salary, conditioned on a successful completion of a tier 2 background evaluation to be completed by Oregon Police Department. And Jeff, I know you have talked about this a little bit previously, but why don't you just give us a quick.
Yeah, so this is part of our kind of modifying our structure. Part of that is to implement a street superintendent position, someone who would be focused on public work day-to-day staffing, job assignments, keeping track of the equipment and that type of thing. And then we'll also be bringing a request for you to probably at the next meeting to go out for our village engineer position, which will kind of be the oversight of the street superintendent and any utility superintendents or anyone that we have in the future. We did open this up internally. Nick was the only applicant, but he was the expected applicant. He has worked with us for over 20 years, started here pretty much out of high school and has been an exemplary employee. He's trusted by all of the staff. He is exceptional with equipment. He's very organized. He's respected by the staff. And I think he will be an exceptional street superintendent for us for a long time.
Okay, good. All right, can we get a motion in a second and we can discuss if we need to?
I'll go move that.
Okay, Jerry, thank you.
Second.
Carleen, got it. Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Yeah,
Actually, I'm going to abstain from this because the interest of transparency, because Nick is related to me.
okay,
So I'm not going to vote.
okay. All right, so Derek will abstain, everybody else, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, okay, very good.
Thank you very much.
You bet. All right, we're on to 14G. The chief has given us some revisions to the police department's uniform / equipment / appearance policy. We do have a staff recommendation to approve as presented. Does somebody want to make the motion in second? We can get it on the table.
I'll go make that.
Okay, Jerry?
I'll second.
Peterson, oh, go ahead.
Who was second? Was it?
Give it to Mike.
Okay, Mike, got it, okay.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
Will. All right, any discussion on this? Chief has listed the changes that she wants to make in the memo. Anybody have questions for the chief?
Randy, I spoke with Chief Begenkopf on Saturday about this a little bit. I'd like to I appreciate the changes that she made first off, and the changes all seem great, but I would like to consider maybe getting the diversity and inclusion boards or committees input on this as well. I'm good with, like I say, all the changes that she's made seem good to me, but I'd like to get a little bit broader scope on some other areas within the uniform policy and just get a few more community members' eyes on it.
Okay, so Derek, are you saying you want them to look at these current changes?
Not necessarily the current changes, but the policy as a whole. There's several areas in here that I kind of looked at and I thought, well, that it could be cleaned up a bit and there could possibly be some changes made.
Okay.
And I think the diversity and inclusion board might be a good place to have more eyes on that for the community.
Okay.
Randy Bollig has a comment on that.
Yeah, Jerry.
We already have a committee that oversees the police department, I recall. I don't see a need to have it involved in another community committee on this. Besides that, it's not an official village committee.
Oh, if I remember right, it was the previous board that approved that committee. And I mean, on just general policies, I don't see any harm in getting some community input on it. And I'm not sure as though if it's the police commission that you're referring to, Jerry, as far as.
Yeah, I was talking about.
Did they look at this policy at all? Were they a part of the changes that were made?
Commission, so I don't know.
Well, Chief, let's ask Chief.
The chief would know that. I don't know. I didn't ask the chief when I saw her.
Can I ask why you bring this up? Is there a problem?
No, and like I say, Chief Pagenkopf made some good changes as far as what I see in there, but I think it could use some updating to kind of bring it up.
Well, can you give some examples, Derek?
Sure. Like that, for example, the hair policy. I know recently the U.S. Army and other military entities have updated their hair policy to be a little bit more inclusive. And when you look at some of the policies like that, I'm thinking of recruitment of a diverse pool of candidates to the police department. It's like I say, it's nothing against what the chief did. The chief has done a good job in what she's done, but there's parts in here where it could actually help with a recruitment of a diverse pool of candidates. Another one that I just kind of looked at was the badges, insignias, and decorations. That can be worn by the officers, or can or can't, unless they're authorized by the chief of police. I think, just kind of given some of the predecessors of Chief Pagenkopf that, we might want a little bit more oversight on what we're allowing our police officers to wear, because they are the public face. I mean, when people get pulled over, this is who they're seeing. So that's, like I say, that's why I think it would be beneficial to have some community involvement in some of these policies.
Again, Derek, you're putting a microscope on the police department now, and I don't understand why. Can you give me an instance of?
I have input here as well.
All right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, Curly, go ahead.
I think it's always a good idea to get public input, and because police have been under a lot of scrutiny from a lot of different places, having public input, especially from a diversity committee, I think is a really good idea. It lifts the microscope, because then people do have the opportunity to say, I think this is a good idea, or question why a decision has been made. And I agree with Derek. I think it's a good idea.
All right. Is Chief still on?
Yeah, Randy, if I could make a few
comments. Go ahead, Chief.
So all of our policies are available on our website, and any group, any person is always welcome to provide any input. So I don't want to limit that to one particular group. I think I've shown that to our community, that I'm always open to questions, concerns, input. What I will say about our hair policy, it has more to do with the officer being able to perform their job in a safe manner. So I don't know if that's the lens this group will also take a look at that in. And I guess I'm still a bit confused as to what the hairstyle issue. So I guess I would want more context from anyone who would want us to change our policy on that. As far as the pins, insignias, or something added to the uniform, to give you an example of when that happens, and it's very rare, but this last weekend, some of our staff attended the LGBTQ+ event down at Triangle Park. That day, while they were down there, they were asked if they would be willing to wear a pride pin. If that discretion is taken away from me in that moment, I cannot approve that. What happened that day was one of the officers declined because they didn't know I was coming in for the day. The other one that did know said, you know what, let me take the pin and I'll check with chief. And then if she approves it, I'll wear it. To me, that's the human side of policing, and having that discretion for me to make that decision and allow for those opportunities is important. I think what we also need to be careful of is perception. And if, I'm just going to be very frank, if the board, the community doesn't trust me to make decisions on a pin our officers wear, what message does that send the rest of our community? Our uniform policy is designed to properly equip our officer, keep them professional looking, and ensure that whatever they are wearing on their uniform, or however they are clothed, or bearded, or what hairstyle they have, is for safety purposes. So I don't know of anywhere in policy where it would exclude someone from a diverse pool. If ever that were to happen, we would immediately address that in our policy, because we are working incredibly hard right now to find diverse people, let alone just qualified candidates. So.
And Chief, let me just say, so Chief, you had said that any of these policies, these are all village policies, these are always open for anybody to give feedback, any group.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Derek, did you want
to? Yeah, just kind of in summary here. Again, it's nothing against Chief Pagenkopf or what she has done. She's doing a great job from what I've seen, and it's not about taking away from her decision making. What I would like to do is just get a little bit more community involvement in some of these policies as they come up, as they go for review. Because I mean, like I say, the previous board is the one that kind of started that diversity and inclusion committee, and I've sat on it for the most part. And we've proofread a letter from the library and a couple other minor functions. But I mean, a lot of that group has really good ideas as far as recruitment and retention of police, and looking at something just as basic as a uniform policy. I mean, I'm not even talking about going into use of force or any of the other policies. It's just really basically the uniform policy is what we're looking at here. Like I say, I don't think it hurts to have a broader set of eyes on the policy and for feedback. And if no changes need to be made, that's great. I'm all on board, because I am by no means an expert in any of that. So if it were to come back and everyone said, hey, this is all good, then that's fine. You'll hear no more from me of it. But like I say, I don't think it hurts to have a second set of eyes on something.
Okay. But Derek, you're okay with us approving this one tonight?
Yeah, like I say, I would like to maybe see it come up on maybe a future agenda.
Okay.
To where we ask outside groups for input on it.
Okay.
that's all. But yeah, I'm fine with approving the changes as is for tonight. I think that's all very common sense changes and rewording of things that needed to be.
And Derek, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm assuming that you're also referring to there could be other policies too that other community members could look at, not just this one.
I'm all for more people in the community looking over any policy, be it public works or police. I mean, the more community involvement, the better. It's community.
Okay. All right. So we do
Yeah,
have
Randy?
Yes, Mike.
Just a quick comment. I mean, I'm not opposed to what Derek's bringing forward at all. But I mean, throughout our village government, whether it be the police department or anything else, I mean, you look at our village boards and across the board, they're white. They're mostly male, not all the board members, but we have a couple committees that are 100% male. Diversity is an issue in all of our village government. We should be looking at it across the board.
Yeah, and I do know the chief is trying really hard to get some good candidates for the police department.
Yeah.
All right, so one more thing. Amanda, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. No, this is just procedure. I guess for the future, for giving input, if the DEI committee were to review something and have feedback, I guess Chief Pagenkopf, would you prefer that they come directly to you and discuss it, or would you recommend they come to a board meeting and do it during the public comment section? They send a representative. How would you like that feedback?
Yeah, I think it's important for our community that if they feel comfortable, it'd be great if they could come to me. We could build a relationship, and maybe there could be that good communication. I would strongly encourage I don't know who the members of the DNI group are, but I would strongly encourage them that we are designing, we're in the creation phase right now, but we're designing a Citizens Academy. You can read word for word through these policies, but when you're doing hands-on activities because of these policies, while you're following these policies, and we're also covering the uniform stuff, hiring stuff, that's when you're truly going to get an understanding. And if all you're going off of is reading policy, you're going to just miss a lot of really what puts it into motion.
All right.
Chief, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Just one last, I noticed that there isn't a annex in here or anything in there about what the crossing guards are issued. Is there some way that we can get that, just from my wife's own experience, get some sort of, not necessarily uniformity, but just make sure that it's equipped, it's in that policy, what they're equipped with, kind of going forward. I know, I mean, we purchased a lot of our own gear, is to keep her safe. And I would just would like something in writing as far as what the crossing guards are, what we as a village deem acceptable to keep them safe. So like I say, I don't know if that can be added at a future date as well.
Chief,
that would be nice to see.
Is that a separate policy? Or?
Yeah, I believe that's a separate document. I could look at if we incorporate it into this particular policy or if it be somewhere else. But those guidelines changed about the time, Derek, your wife was working as a crossing guard. The village hired on a safety, I don't know if I call it coordinator or whatever. But then the level of safety vests changed and things like that. So I can find that information and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I'd love it if you could forward it on to me. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So we got a motion and a second to approve these changes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, terrific. All right, we're on to 15, reports of committees. Items are for discussion and possible action. 15A, we'll take I first, preliminary plat, final plat for Kai Court, 769 Janesville Street. This is the Habitat for Humanity development. And so just so everybody knows, and stuff was in our packet, but all this has been vetted through staff and through the Plan Commission and our village engineers. So, and I was on the Plan Commission when this came through last week. So a lot of good lot of good feedback from Plan Commission members. So these are kind of routine things, but let's take 15A1 first, which is the one I just read for the Kai Court, 769 Janesville. Plan Commission staff recommendation motion to approve as presented with planner recommended conditions. And there are a lot of good notes in our packet as well. So if I can have a motion and a second for that AI, we'll get that one approved first.
Peterson, I'll second them.
Oh, Derek and Amanda, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, we'll go to 15A2, which is the preliminary plat of Phase 2 Autumn Ridge subdivision submitted by Hoffer Development. Plan Commission and staff recommend approval as presented, again with planners recommended notes in our packet, very good maps and things. So I'll take a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion.
All right, Carlene, thank you. Second.
Derek will second.
All right, Derek, thank you. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, Randy?
Yeah, Mike.
I have a concern about this, not the majority of it, just the public park area. This is on a hillside, and there's an intention to basically flatten it yet again. Oregon has very few hills, in case you haven't noticed. We're mostly flat. And we have, it seems like every park that we have is loaded with playing fields. You know, I could see maybe having a portion of this be like a flat playground area for kids, but it seems to me of equal value might be having an area where people can like walk through nature, or an area where there's a portion of a sledding hill, or something that takes more of an advantage of an incline that people could actually use for some of their recreational activities, other than just flattening it for another field.
Yeah, Mike, it's funny you say that, because of the Plan Commission, the sledding hill, leaving that slope as a sledding hill came up as a potential place for a nice sledding hill for the neighborhood. I know the neighborhood would like to have some type of playground equipment, because I got a phone call maybe about a month ago about this. But let's have Carlene, and then I want Elise to sort of jump in on this, or Jeff.
I look at this spot out my kitchen window every morning.
Yeah.
And in the afternoon, especially before it got so hot, and in the wintertime, that big mound of dirt that's that they dug out of basements, there are kids on that all the time. They're up there and they love playing up there. The other thing is that we talked in the park committee about play equipment in that playground, and just noticing the level of traffic that's now on Foxfield, that now that it cuts through all the way from Maine out to M. It's pretty heavily trafficked, and there's lots of little kids.
Yeah.
So it's there. Having a playground would be a great thing, but there is also a concern about crossing the street there to get to the playground. So
yeah,
it's kind of a double-edged sword.
I mean, maybe Carlene. I mean, I know the neighborhood, when they talk to me and talk to staff too, they're willing to sort of raise the money. Maybe there could be just a couple pieces of something that could be placed there. But let me have Elise and Jeff sort of weigh in here.
Okay, yeah, a couple things on the field. So Elise, if you could zoom in on that area, just of the park area. So what we have, if you go into our park and open space plan, and if you go and say the last 4 years has been kind of a resounding gong from the number of sports groups. And I'm not just singling out like soccer, but I'm singling out lacrosse, ultimate frisbee, soccer, flag football, all these other ones. And really, the village is very deficient in playing fields. And so when Autumn Ridge Phase 1 came in, which is to the north of this, the site, they didn't have a really good suitable spot for a park, and they wanted to develop it, obviously. So they put off some park dedication until Phase 2, with the idea that they would be made to create a playable playing field out here. So we've been working with the developer on this. And first of all, the concern was parking. And so you can see it, we have parking, kind of an angled bump out parking area along there. And then we have this hillside, which I honestly think is going to be a pretty nice little sledding area. And the nice thing with it, as far as being a sledding hill there, is your run out is onto a field. It's not into a roadway, it's not into playground equipment or anything else. It's just into an open field. So I actually think that will turn into a very popular sledding area along there. But then again, coming back to everything, and if you ask Mike Slavny, Elise has been tasked with a lot of this, and we just constantly get this from all the sports organizations that we need playing fields. We need practice fields and everything in the village. And that's how we've ended up today with that, with the design as it is. Now, you're the village board, so you can change that direction. But that's, a part of it is the developer is required to commit park space or pay fee in lieu of. And this is their version of what they're needing to do for this development.
So Jeff, just as I'm looking at this, so the sledding hill or whatever hill you want to call it is there, but to the right of that, you can it's kind of faint, but is a soccer field, or it's some
Playing
kind of
field.
field.
Yeah, we call them playing fields because if we call them soccer fields, then all the other sports.
Yeah, that's
get
true.
bad.
Yeah, I should know
So,
better.
Yeah, we call them playing fields, and they truly are to be used by all different groups.
Yeah.
Or those that want to go out and fly a kite or throw the ball around or practice.
Or just place anything, yeah.
practice
Carlene, so Carlene, I wanted to ask you, since you kind of look out that, how do you feel about, the just a regular playing field?
So having played a lot of sports and been a soccer coach and part of the Oregon Youth Soccer Association coach and running the tournaments, there's a lot of little kids that go with their parents to soccer games, and they don't want to sit on the sidelines and watch their older siblings play soccer. They want someplace to play. So I would really strongly urge us to consider putting some playground equipment there, and perhaps making that one of the smaller youth playing fields rather than a full-size soccer field. I love soccer. I played soccer for 20 years myself and coached it for 10. But, I just think we've got to think of some other things. We got a lot of flat fields in this village.
This is Matt. Can I ask a question?
Absolutely, sure.
This is really probably a question for Jeff and maybe Elise. So what we have before us tonight is a preliminary plat, which shows an area proposed to be dedicated to the village for park uses. I guess my question is do we know at this point that the land area is going to be graded in accordance with some kind of a grading plan that is designed to accommodate the playing fields, or does the village still have flexibility to make decisions down the road as to how it should be graded and improved? I just don't recall, Jeff, if you know.
Well, in the preliminary plat here, they've shown us how they plan to rough grade the site. And we want them to do that because, grading is expensive, and that's part of the development of that area, that they would give us a playable, not a surface that we can work with. We did the same with Highlands of Netherwood Park, where the contractor was required to give us a certain kind of elevation and grade out there. And then our contractor came in and did the final grading, the soil, what do they call that? Where they modify the soil and they added the under drains and all of that. That was our expense. But, you know, you can see here as part of the preliminary plat, we definitely do want to see how they plan on grading it, because we don't want to make sure that they're not forcing themselves into slopes that are too hard for us to mow or maintain.
Well, and I take it the grading of the park area would tie into the grading of the private lots and the stormwater ponds, and would have an impact on stormwater management and how the water is going to flow. So,
Correct.
so there's
it's all tied together.
Yeah, it's all tied together. So if the board said, hey, we don't like this grading, or we don't like this use, we want to see it graded differently, we'd have to go back to the drawing board and address some of those issues.
Then they should be sending it back as not approving the preliminary plat, coming back and saying, okay, because you don't put playground equipment on a slope of 3 to 1, which is what we see. Isn't it, Bruce, about 3 to 1, 4 to 1 coming off the parking there down to the field?
Yeah, it's I modified it to a 3 to 1.
Yeah. So you won't put playground equipment unless it's a zip line that is just, you know, we'd be picking up kids in ambulances off the bottom of that hill. But you know, you don't want to, you really look at flat areas. The thing I want to caution about playgrounds, and we have a lot of playgrounds in the village. They're expensive to construct. They're expensive to maintain. And we have a lot of them. And I don't see them getting as much use as they could. And that's where we have to kind of consider where we want to put them. You know, we just did brand new out at Highlands and Netherwood Park, and I think that stuff's getting used pretty well. But, you know, we would need to ask the developer to come back, provide us a pad up top there. That would be for playground equipment, and then regrade down there like to a different field configuration, like what Carlene is asking. You know, playground equipment, I'm just going rough estimate, is about $100,000, $60,000 to $100,000, depending on the type of equipment you want. And then you have the surfacing and the hardscaping around it, which would be about another $40,000 to $50,000. And depending on what type of surfacing you put in there would be even more. So you're in the neighborhood of $100,000 to $140,000 for playground equipment up there. That would be something that you would have to instruct us to put into a future capital improvement plan as part of the park development out there.
And then I have one more question, which is, has the park board reviewed this and made any decisions as to whether this is, from their perspective, an appropriate grading plan for the park, for example?
So they didn't.
I don't think so.
No, they didn't look specifically. I mean, they saw this plan and they don't really make a determination in terms of this grading appropriate or not. I think we did bring up the request by the neighborhood for playground equipment, again, with the understanding that that's not funded at this time. There's been some discussion with the neighborhood about them being willing to fundraise. I don't think there's a good understanding by the neighborhood about the actual cost of a, you know, municipal commercial grade equipment that's safe and, you know, would fall under the village's requirements for insurance policy, things like that. There was support to add a playground into the space, and I guess you know, Jeff would know more about this as well as Bruce, the engineer for the project. But you know, there's potential that maybe the grading stays relatively the same. There's still the flat space, but the playground is maybe lower, you know, beneath this sledding hill, and then we have a smaller field. But you know, that's always the balance we try to strike with our park plans, is that there's people that want active uses and playground, and there's all kinds of different users of parks. But this area of the village is certainly underserved by public park areas. I think whatever ends up going here will be used and appreciated, but what that looks like is, you know, that's why we have our park and open space plans, to try to dedicate. We've got lots of large conservancy areas and parks Anderson Farm County Park isn't too far from here too. So we're always trying to balance, and we've heard from a lot of the sports organizations that actually even in the last year, even with COVID, their membership numbers have gone way up, which is great to see that there's more kids involved in youth sports, and trying to accommodate that throughout the village and into our neighborhoods is something that, that's kind of what we've done in the past. So carrying that plan forward is kind of how we plan out these neighborhoods.
All right, so Elise, just a point of clarification for me. We have a motion in the second, and the recommendation is to approve this. If we do approve this, then nothing will happen with the playground, or something could happen, or what?
So Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that, the preliminary plat is sort of approving the overall layout of lots and how the stormwater management works, which again is part of the design of the park, is to make sure the water goes where it's supposed to. I think we could still carry forward this conversation about integrating a playground into the park as we move forward with.
Okay.
They still need to come back with a final plat. So,
all right. So we could,
that could be incorporated into the final.
All right. So we could approve as recommended, and there's still some room for some potential addition of some playground stuff.
It's a preliminary plat.
All right. All right.
I mean, it's and things change between preliminary and final plat, but
okay.
But usually, if you want major changes, this is where you would request them. But we'll talk to Bruce, and Bruce can look at it. Maybe there's a way we can
do something.
This is Matt. I'll just weigh in. So once the preliminary plat is approved, the developer is entitled to approval of the final plat, so long as it's consistent with the preliminary plat. And what concerns me here is the grading. And so if you are concerned, if you want to see something substantially different in terms of grading, that may be something. My sense is that might be a problem because of the stormwater related issues, the drainage, the configuration, and how it ties in with the other lots. So that's my only reservation. If you really have to regrade this substantially to accommodate a playground, and you really want a playground, then I'm not sure that you could achieve that later.
Right. Bruce, I don't know. Do you want to weigh in on this?
Well, it's my understanding that we've got the land dedicated, that's set aside for the park. And from my standpoint, we can certainly work with the village and accommodate the grading aspect of it. I mean, there's a lot of different ways we could utilize some of that alt lot 4 that's up on top to provide a little 50 by 50 foot pad for playground equipment, and then.
Yeah, Bruce, I get the idea from talking to the neighbors who called me that they're not looking for like a tremendous, a playground, just something, I think, is what they're looking for.
Yeah, and we can give we can pretty much grade however you need to. Obviously, like you touched on, that we got to tie into the stormwater management pond down further downstream. We've got some just restrictions around all sides of the parkland, but
you think it's doable to add something in there, hopefully?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it might get to, yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Any other discussion? Pardon?
Favor. That shed on the original plat, that shed on the corner there, that's in my backyard. Can I just leave that there? It's like right on the line.
The shed?
That was a joke. That was a joke.
I thought, okay. All
it
right.
really is though. In that cul-de-sac, that little shed on the existing plat. That's
Okay.
in my yard. I'm gonna have to figure out how to move that unless it's, only like 3 feet over.
Well, we won't be able to
Carlene,
work.
did you get a building permit for that shed?
Yeah, we did.
So Carlene, Bruce said he's willing to work. He might be able to work with you.
Yeah, well, I don't have that. I don't have it right in front of me right now, but I do know there was a bit of an encroachment back there. I just didn't. I'm not sure to what extent, and if we can, we'll definitely work around it if we can.
That was totally a joke, Bruce.
Well, I'm just.
Light a little bit.
All right. Well, it sounds so everybody. It sounds like the developer is kind of willing to sort of look at some potential options. I hate for us to hold this preliminary plat up because of that, but it sounds like they're willing to see what can be done.
Yeah.
Okay. So we do have a motion and a second. I'm gonna take a vote on this. So this is a preliminary plan for phase 2 Autumn Ridge subdivision. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed?
I don't.
All right, Mike's opposed, okay? All right, good discussion though on this. So thank you.
All right, thank you,
Bruce.
Thank you much. Yep,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, so we're on 15.3, which is proposals for architecture and engineering design services for J.C. Park concession stand building. Plan Commission staff recommendation motion is to award the services to Sketchworks Architecture, Square Structural Engineers, and Taylor Engineers. So you saw in your packet there actually were three proposals to do the work. At the Plan Commission, the Plan Commission has architects and engineers. Some of the folks on the Plan Commission have worked with I think all three of these, and their recommendation was to select the Sketchworks, if you see on the screen, architecture, and the actual cost of the village was, they had the low bid, $35,040, and then they gave us also a fee reduction of, to the left, $8,760, kind of an in-kind donation. And so the folks who spoke on the Plan Commission have worked with these folks and feel that they will do just fine. So that is the recommendation that we approve tonight, is to approve the Sketchworks architecture firm. So I will take a motion in a second if somebody's willing to do that.
So moved.
Okay, Mike?
Derek will second.
All right, Derek, okay. Discussion.
Randy,
Yeah,
another question for staff. And
Okay.
My question is, what part of the budget is this in?
I believe
Is
this
this
would
in
be part of the village borrowing for J.C. Park, the $4 million.
So these are borrowed funds, right?
yeah, we already borrowed them, Jerry.
Got it. Thank you.
Right.
Okay, anybody else?
Randy,
Yes, Mike?
question for staff. How is this concession stand going to be run? Is that going to be a vendor based? Is that we're expecting the Oregon Soccer Association or the different sports leagues to staff it? The reason I'm asking that is I go to a lot of parks that have concession stands and I rarely, if ever, see them open. And I just really, if we're going to put that as part of this, I'd like to see it used. So I'd like an idea of what's going on with it.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I believe it's to be determined. There were some different restaurant operators in the past that have expressed interest in operating the building. Of course, the building isn't just concessions, it's also restrooms and then a scoring area upstairs. This is the conceptual floor plan and upstairs floor plan, but it could also be sort of a community run enterprise, but I believe that would be to be determined down the road. But yeah, just to mention, this would be a separate sort of contract and everything, once we get to construction, then the park itself, so Rutler Corporation, that design Highlands and Netherwood Park is doing right now, the site design for the overall site, the parks, the fields, the concession stand would be, you know, Rutler's, whatever contractor is working on the Rutler plan would be preparing a pad with utility connections, and then whoever is doing the construction for the concession stand would sort of pick up at that point and then complete the construction of the building while the rest of the park is finished. Lisa, Jeff, do you remember any other discussions about operations? I don't think that we ever kind of.
No, I mean,
finished that.
yeah, I mean, there was a time early on that this could be turned into almost more of a restaurant-y thing that would be more above and beyond concession food. So it'd actually be like you were going out to a restaurant. I know some places have done that. We really had to scale it back from that. It really is just your traditional concession stand. Realistically, this is right in the middle of the baseball complex, so it would be the baseball or softball likely that would be running it during their concessions. Just like this last weekend, we had a softball tournament. They have their own people that came in and staffed it, brought in their own materials and that type of stuff. We're just providing them usually the refrigerators, the display areas, some equipment, and that type of thing.
Okay, so I hope you all, just want to say something while this is up. I think this is the coolest concession stand I've ever seen. And I love how they incorporated the Tin Man.
Yep.
Looks like a farmhouse wrapped around the Tin Man to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Any other discussion before we vote on this?
I have a question.
Yeah, Carlene.
I'd like to know, are these going to be porous surfaces here? The what looks like flagstone, is that some sort of porous surface, or is that going to be all concrete?
Yeah.
Good question.
Actually, when we presented this conceptual design to the last village board, I think it was maybe last fall, there was a lot of questions and concerns about the amount of paving here. This was just, again, the architect that did the conceptual design for the building. He just kind of did a really blank canvas in terms of all the outside. So this is not, the site design will actually include lots of landscaping and trees and various permeable surfaces. So this was just the focus is on the building here. Yeah, this is just kind of a blank template to show where the building would be in relation to the field.
Yeah.
There will be a lot of concrete, and I mean it's typically around these areas. If they're not concrete, you can't get grass to grow in areas. I've seen it's just way too much traffic and stuff. But yeah, I think there'll be landscape islands. There's be trees and the standard.
One of the things that are going to on the East Coast in areas where there's a lot of drainage and flooding issues is actually permeable surfaces that you're not trying to get grass to grow, but that they drain.
Yeah.
And I guess I would like to see some of that kind of considered for this kind of thing, because we already have enough issues with water. If we had something that was permeable, that might help.
Yeah, there's permeable pavements that we can look at, and that's a good idea. And there's pavers you can use that are permeable. I mean, we'll look at options definitely to be able to infiltrate where we can.
And again, that'll probably be more with the site contract with Rutler rather than
correct
the building. Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yeah, we'll have nothing
Make
to do
sure
with
it's kind of consistent throughout the whole park. Matches.
Okay. All right. Anybody else before we vote?
Yeah, I have
another
Amanda. Question. So, and I know that some of these are sort of preliminary designs, but I would really like whoever does this to incorporate at least one family / unisex bathroom to accommodate families and transgender people who might not feel comfortable using just men's or women's. It can serve a lot of purposes, and we just had a big Pride event, and these things are on my mind now, and I didn't bring it up when we looked at designs initially, but I think that I don't know how much that would add to the cost, but I feel like it's a public building. Our government is putting funds into it, and I feel like for equity's sake and ease of use of our constituents, I feel like would be a positive change.
Yep, these
Hi,
are
Kathy.
definitely first run of the floor plan, so we'll pass that on to whoever starts working on this.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
So Elise, so am I hearing that we can do a unisex bathroom then?
I'm not promising anything, but I think, you know, again,
Okay.
this isn't the exact floor plan. It's truly conceptual. So the reason for hiring architect and engineer now is to kind of take it to the point of actually doing, you know, building plans. So
Yeah, sorry.
I don't
Elise,
see why that.
Erin Summers from Sketchworks Architecture. I am on the line just in case you guys had any questions. And yeah, it's absolutely possible to do unisex bathrooms and family restrooms at no additional cost. It's actually becoming more of the, you know, the norm because that's what everybody wants right now.
Yeah,
So
good.
not
Perfect.
a problem at all.
Well, we're glad you're on the call.
Absolutely.
Bollick has another question. So does
Yes.
that mean we could possibly do a couple of them?
If you're going to expand, you know, the actual footprint of the building, then, you know, that can make a difference in more on the end of construction costs.
No, I
But yes,
didn't
we
wanna-
can, whatever your preference is, it's
What are you
just,
thinking, Jerry?
Pardon?
What are you thinking?
I'm just thinking that Amanda had a great idea and I'd like to see that move forward.
Yeah, well, she said they can add that.
Yep. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let's take a vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the Tin Man lives on. All right.
So did we vote to do the unisex bathroom now, Randy?
You, Elise, do we need to, or can you?
No, we'll definitely, I mean, we'll pass that comment forward again, there won't be, you know, just one final design that's presented. We'll probably be showing multiple versions. So hopefully,
Okay.
again, that'll be part of the kind of first draft.
Yeah. And Jerry Sketchworks was just talking to us, so they know what we want.
Yep, they heard
Okay,
you.
I just wanted to know what we approved.
You bet. Okay. All right, let's go to 16. We're unfinished business. And 16A is goal setting with the village administrator. So he's been quiet for the last hour. So Martin, take it away.
Yeah, so back at the May 3rd meeting, Randy had requested that all the members provide 3 goals for the administrator, and we talked a little bit about those on May 17th. And in the packet, I kind of list them out here in my memo. And we talked a little bit about them at the 17th meeting. And everybody seemed pretty supportive of prioritizing all these items in some manner. And that we would kind of talk about these at future meetings. And so thinking about that a little bit, and then talking with department heads and just learning more about the organization, I kind of started to sketch what I have in the packet there. This kind of, I ended up titling it a strategic plan, but basically taking every priority that was listed and, kind of describing them on one page each of, what the issue is, kind of some background on each issue, and then really what are some actionable items that we could actually take to further some of these priorities, and then maybe just a general time frame of what it would take to complete some of these items. So what I have listed out there is, as I said, a page for each priority and some action items that I've tied into it from, things that we talked about a little bit, but then also things that I've learned from department heads and things that were handed off to me from Administrator Grace. And so we just kind of expanded on that and tried to maybe short circuit a little bit of lengthy discussion to try to get to something a little bit more specific and actionable. And I did add in two suggestions as well that I would highly recommend based on what I've kind of been learning and understanding. including at the end of the document there, retain and attract high quality village staff, and then work more on the southeast expansion area. So just trying to push this along and trying to turn it into something that, you know, in a year from now or 2 years from now, that we can kind of look back and say, yeah, we did move some of these items forward, or maybe we need to work more on some of these things. So I'm interested in everybody's thoughts, and, you know, if this is something completely out of line, then you know, tell me, or if this is something that is pretty close to what you're thinking, then we can kind of refine it and adopt it at a future meeting.
So Martin, why don't we mention that you and I had a conversation this morning about as looking through these, and I think actually Carlene made the comment, I mean, you could spend a lot of time on these. The suggestion was that maybe we have a couple separate village board meetings where all we do is talk about these, get through some of these, and you know, whether that we come to a list of 5 or whatever, but just to have a really good, deep sort of conversation among us, so that we're all on the same page, and that we don't just have to have 10 minutes to spend on one of them, but that we really sort of discuss and talk about them, and then come up with a good plan. Is kind of what we're thinking. So they would be special village board meetings where all we talk about are some of these priorities, was the thought.
Randy, I'm up for that. I like that idea. I think some of these we could go a little deeper on and flesh out and make a case for prioritizing over other ones, and, you know, having that discussion is good, I think.
Yeah, and then we're not distracted with, you know, 10 other million things on our village board. We're really sort of focused on these things that are important to all of us.
Hey, Randy, I would agree with Amanda, and I think that's a great idea. And going back to one of Martin's first meetings, kind of keeps us to a time-bound agenda. It's going to get some of these things to move forward quicker if we just hit one of these each, you know, month, every other week or whatever. So I think that's a great way to move forward.
Yeah, and let me just add, I would suggest that we do it relatively soon. Have the meeting so we can really sort of dive in and have some good discussion. And so that way, I think it's good that we all sort of know we're all on the same page, and staff knows as things come up. You know, there's a lot of things happening in the village. The sooner we can sort of get these things kind of worked out, I think the better for all of us. So other feelings, yeah. Amanda, do you have something else?
No, Michael is muted.
Oh,
It
I'm
looks like
sorry,
he wants to
Michael.
say something.
I don't see you. I didn't see you. Go
That's
ahead.
okay. I'm in favor of this as well, putting it in special meetings. Otherwise, I think it'll be too broken up to do effective strategic planning, and we'll be at it for months.
Yeah.
Martin, I really wanted to thank you for the thoughts you put into this. It's clear you've spent a lot of time on it.
Mm-hmm.
There's some changes and things I can add, but this is a great start for a discussion. So thank you.
I just want to concur with what Mike just said. Thank you, Martin, for being so comprehensive. I think all of us could talk for a long time, and you just boiled it down. So that's very helpful to be able to think about it that way. And I like that there is, as Derek said, times on it for about how long these would take. I think doing them all at the same time, they all might take a little longer, but, you know, just that whole idea of being able to really discuss and prioritize, I'm up for it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Martin, sounds like from everyone, we kind of have a direction to go in. We'll probably want to look at some times to meet in the future. You want to add anything else, Martin?
So you think one, or at least one, or starting with one special board?
I'm thinking Martin, probably let's do 2 at first. We might need even more than that. I don't know. It could be I mean, it depends. We'll try to get through as many as we can, but I'd rather have a very in-depth conversation and good discussion rather than trying to get through every one of them. So maybe the first time we only get through 2 or 3 or whatever, but I'm thinking probably at least 2 to start with, at least 2 meetings.
Sure.
I don't know whatever everybody else thinks. There might be 2 hours. Who knows? Carleen?
I think it might be helpful if each one of us reads each one of these in depth and then prioritizes them for ourselves. And then we maybe come up with some consensus around which ones, which we all feel really strongly about, or most of us do, so that we can start with those that are higher priority.
Yeah, and I would add to that, Carleen. I mean, I got a couple emails from some people like on sustainability, and they sent some other municipalities plans and things. So if anybody's got things like that, so we're not starting from scratch, we can look at what other people are doing and maybe, adopt some things, or even if we start out small. And I do think that on a lot of these things, we're doing some of these things already. But maybe we can do it more in depth than we're currently doing. All right, so does it sound okay, everybody? Direction? All right.
Yep.
Martin, you're okay, or what do you think?
Yeah, so do we think we want to have a meeting this month, like a special board meeting?
Martin, it's almost 8 o'clock for me, and I'm gonna start fading. So why don't you send us an email with some,
Sure.
Yeah. Because it seems like it's been a long meeting already. I can't, yeah. Is that
Gotta
okay?
stop getting up at 4:30, Randy.
Well, I know. Some of you are night owls, I'm not.
No,
All
we
right.
can, no, we can work to schedule something, and
Yeah.
we can do it behind the scenes.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. All right, we're on to 17 already. New business, we have none. 18 is future agenda items. Items gives us opportunity to place items and new business on future agendas. Anybody have anything on their mind they'd like to see? Now is the time.
I do.
Mike?
Yeah, I would like to see us have a discussion about basically removing participation or removing barriers to participation
Okay.
in our government. I mean, we've had a number of issues in the last month. I've spoken to a couple people regarding the open comment periods that we discussed at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah.
The question of how do we, basically encourage our community to give us feedback.
Okay.
And making that, so I would like to put that on the agenda.
All right. Anybody else? Carleen? Okay. Your box lit up. I thought you had something.
She was almost there.
All right. Anybody else?
Hey, yeah, Randy, Derek here. I would like to circle back around to the conversation with Chief Fagenkopf earlier to see about getting a little bit more input on that policy.
Okay.
I was wondering when you were going to speak up, Derek.
You knew it was coming.
I was about ready to prompt you here.
I like to wait. It's all right. I'm patient.
Anybody else? All right, we got some direction. I think we're getting ready to go into closed session again. I don't think I've ever been in closed session twice in one meeting. So, all right, so we're gonna go into closed session, and I'll take a motion and a second to go into closed session, and then we'll do a voice vote on that.
Go move.
All right, Mike?
Derek will second.
All right, Derek. All right. Let's see. Candy, you want to do it?
So just to clarify, we're going into section for pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851E to discuss property acquisition near future library site. Once.
No,
we're not.
This is.
I'm sorry. This is the proposed agreement with DAJK LLC.
proposed amendments to that agreement.
Yeah. Sorry, I copied and pasted, sorry. But I just wanted to clarify for the record what we were going into closed session for.
Okay,
Okay,
yep.
Wunsch,
Yes.
Belo,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sessions,
Yes.
Pollak,
Yes.
English.
Yes. And then just for the public, we will adjourn from closed session after this.